welcome back to Nuparu's workshop for episode 6 of the Toa Factory. And without further ado, let's get to building the last Toa of our first Toa team. Kaliko the Warrior, Arkua the Hunter, Gavwa the Explorer, Perkan the Defender, Ratau the Champion. These are the Toa so far to come from the Toa Factory. And since we're only missing one element, the element of Earth, that will be the final Toa that we build. And since the rest of the team has been built, and in building them I've established patterns and styles that I would like to keep consistent, this Toa will be a little bit different in that most of the decisions for the build have already been made by the decisions I made with the other Toa. There are certain things I won't want to repeat too much, and then certain styles, certain themes that I will want to repeat with this Toa. So we'll get into some of the rules that I'll have to follow for this final build. First of all, I've established a pattern with the eye color of the Toa. Arkua and Gavwa both have dark green eyes. Perkan and Kaliko both have lime green eyes. And Ratau has light blue eyes. So to complete the set, our final Toa will have light blue eyes. The mask colors for 3 of the Toa match with their secondary color. Arkua has light gray, Kaliko has dark gray, and Ratau has light blue. And then 2 of the Toa, their mask color matches with their primary color. Gavwa has blue, and Perkan has brown. So to keep up this pattern, we have 3 Toa with secondary mask color, and then 3 Toa will have primary mask color, meaning that our Toa of Earth will have a primary color as her mask color. And since I've been going with the standard colors for the torsos, her primary color will be black. These are the masks I have available in this color. I'll go ahead and remove the Bakari and the Ruru since I've already used those for other Toa and I don't want to have repeats. Leaving us with the Hau, the Miru, and the Cow. The feet, in line with the pattern that I've been using, will match the primary color, so we'll have black feet. 3 of the Toa so far have been male, and 2 have been female, so our final Toa will be a female, to have an even balance of 3 and 3. For the weapons, 3 of the Toa have either two-handed or dual weapons, and then 2 of them have a shield and another weapon. So for this Toa to round out the set, she will have a shield and another weapon. The colors of the shield are difficult since I only have these pieces in limited color. Ideally, I would have a different color from either of the 2 previous shields, since their colors don't match, so it would be kind of weird to have 2 of one color and then 1 of another color. However, with the design that I'm working on, it only really works to use the black shield. So there's a bit of inconsistency there, and that we'll have 2 black shields and 1 lime green shield. But we're just going to have to live with that. So I decided very early on I want to use orange as the secondary color for this character. Black and orange is just, it's my favorite color combo to work in. It's my self-mock color combo. And it's one that I will continue using until the frickin' day I die. For the weapon, I have these orange blade pieces, similar to the ones I use for, well, they're the same pieces I use for Arkua's daggers. But I want to make them into this sort of claw, kind of a like hydraulic gripping, drilling, digging claw sort of thing. Something reminiscent to power miners. I'm going to give it a hydraulic tube going into that'll connect to the back of the Toa. And the blue, I think, will match with the blue of the eyes, hopefully. It's a slightly different color, slightly different texture, but I think it'll match okay. And it seems like a very appropriate tool for a Toa of Earth. What's missing for this team is a clear leader. So for this build, I want to focus on making it the leader of the team. the legs, the arms, head, torso, shield, claw, gears, technic bits, axles, hand connector, technic connectors, pins, masks. These are all of the components that will be used to construct this toa. I was more careful setting out the parts this time, so I actually have not made any mistakes. These are the parts used to construct this toa. The build will essentially be quite similar to Toa Anua, since I want to use the hunched design. All the other Toa have had standard Toa necks, or they've had the inverted Toa torso in Ratao's case. So to kind of keep with the pattern that was set out by the original Toa Mata, I'm going to have one Toa that has the hunched appearance without the long neck piece. Adding the gears for the one right shoulder to move. And then adding a blue pin for the other shoulder, which will be more stationary. Ideally, I'd have this as a black pin axle connector, but I don't have many of those. Anua originally, he didn't have anything on his chest, since that's where his neck was. And I wanted to fix that a little bit. So I'm adding this Technic connector here down in the crotch area so I can add this handpiece and have some kind of adornment on the chest. Because I feel like Anua was missing that. And I like having something on here to add a little bit extra to the build. Adding the legs. Now one of these, you can see that the foot is actually cracked a bit, and it's quite worn. This leg too, actually. I think these were both some of my original pieces, so they're a little more worn down than some. And I'm actually going to work that into the story of this character. I'm going to say she has one bad leg. So maybe she moves a bit more slowly. She's not as agile as some of the other Toa. And that affects her style. We'll add the arm and a pin for the shield. She's going to have narrow shoulders, since most of the other Toa have broad shoulders, and I want to have more diversity. And you never actually saw the Mata leg piece in the like the narrow shouldered version, and it just gives her a very lanky look, which I quite like. Adding the shield. Adding the claw. This one doesn't necessarily match the theme of the Toa because their weapons are usually the primary color, whereas these are the secondary color. But in this case, I'm not going to complain because I don't have these in black. And I just really wanted to do this design. So this is our Toa, our leader of our Toa team, our Toa of Earth. To me, Earth was always the most obvious choice as the element of the leader of a team. It's just it's very basic, it's very solid, it's one of the most fundamental elements, and it's always been my favorite. For our fashion show, we'll start with the how. Great mask, great shape, looks fantastic on here. I do have the hang up I mentioned before about giving a mask of shielding to someone who has a shield, so that's one detractor for this. But really, I have very few complaints. And look how when you have the light piping working through to brighten up the eyes, look how fantastic this looks. It's just amazing. The contrast between the blue and the black. And then we have the cow. The color of this one, since it's that trans black instead of black, there's a bit of dissonance amongst the color scheme with this mask. But I still like it quite a bit. The mask power is a bit arbitrary for this character. I don't know if she would have a lot of reason to be breathing underwater. Perhaps the caves, the underground city where she lives is partially submerged, and she would need a mask of water to explore and go around and whatnot. So in that sense, I think it might work. And it could help me sort of develop the geography of the imaginary place that this is all happening in, which might be interesting. And finally, the Miru. I've been on record saying this is probably my least favorite mask. In this case, I think it works a little better than usual, though. You can see the Miru has some detailing on the forehead. There's like a stripe going down and then kind of the brow line leading out. And that actually is sort of mirrored on the shield piece by the beams going out. So there's a bit of consistency in the texture there, which is nice. Those blue eyes do look quite good in this mask as well, with that color combo, the blue and the black, and then the tube. I think I'm really happy with the colors on this build. Another interesting about the Miru is that the shape of it actually kind of mirrors the shape of the Toa. She has her body and then her head jutting forward, and the head of the body sort of mirrors the beak of the mask, how it comes forward at the top. And I like that. It feels like it completes the shape. To me, what is usually the disadvantage of the mask is actually an advantage on this build. And the power of levitation, I think, would work, especially with her damaged leg, so she perhaps needs another way of moving around when she needs to be agile. And I also see her as a very, almost kind of a monk-like character. So I can see her meditating, floating in the air, having visions, using that mask power of levitation to aid her spiritual side. And the winner is the Miru. It works quite well on this build, and I want to take advantage of a build where I actually like the Miru on it. Our Toa of Earth, the leader of our team, has the power of levitation. Perhaps that's actually kind of ironic, as it was when Niparu had the Mask of Flight, a Toa of Earth having the ability to levitate away from the Earth. So maybe there's some irony there. But I'm very happy with this build. And now to dive into the personality and traits of this character. We're going to name her Ontuma. On coming from Onua, Tuma coming from Tuma, essentially. The three words that will be used to define Ontuma are going to be patient, guide, and thoughtful. She's the leader of her team, and she has the ability to connect to them all. She's patient enough to deal with their differences, and she's thoughtful enough to really understand each of them and know how to use their abilities and their personalities best for the benefit of the team and for the benefit of the Matoran. Her stats, her strength is average. Toa of Earth are usually quite strong, but I think Ontuma is going to be a little bit different. She's going to just have average strength, and she'll have some other strengths elsewhere. Her speed, largely because of her leg, is going to be below average. It's going to be 3. Her intelligence will be 7. She is intelligent both in the way of understanding people and in terms of strategy. Courage is going to be Ontuma's primary characteristic. It's going to be all the way up at 8, which is another thing that makes her such a great leader. She's bold and willing to take risks, and she is not afraid. I was considering having Pekan be the leader of the team since he has a lot of leader characteristics, but I think his courage is quite a bit lower because of the insecurity he has. And so in some instances he would falter, where Antuma would not. Her skill is the lowest. She's not necessarily very adept at combat, likes to be behind the scenes, doesn't necessarily exercise her martial abilities as much. And her endurance is 4. It would be much higher, but because of that leg, she has a specific vulnerability that brings her endurance down. All right, and then for her 5 bonus points, I'm going to say that in specific instances of either conflict resolution, so dealing with interpersonal differences, and also a second instance of working in very precise conditions, in dealing with minute details where things need to be done very carefully, Antuma has a massive burst of skill. So her skill is either 3 or 8 in instances of interpersonal conflict resolution and precision. Mainly that's because of her claw. I think her claw makes it seem like she would be very precise. Like if she were at an arcade, she could rock the claw machine. That's why, that's probably subconsciously why I created this whole character. As for her relationships with the team, she's certainly a node of stability within the team and can work well with everyone. With Arkua, she recognizes that he has difficulty working with the rest of them, and oftentimes will send him off on his own to do missions that require his abilities. Arkua appreciates this. He doesn't necessarily like working with Antuma, but he respects her. Perkan is going to be Antuma's second in command, and oftentimes he has different ideas than she does about how they proceed, how they should proceed, but ultimately he listens to her and follows her lead. They both have quite a defensive style. They're more slow to act. They will react rather than initiate conflict. Ritao and Antuma get along fantastically. There's not a lot of juice in that relationship, no drama really. It's a low conflict relationship, but it's also not like they're BFFs. Antuma and Kuliko, they have a similar sort of connection to the spiritual side of things, and that is where they find their strongest connection. Oftentimes they'll meditate together. While Kuliko uses that to harness her skill in combat, Antuma uses it more as a conduit to connect to people. So sometimes they butt heads a little bit, in that Kuliko is more aggressive and Antuma is not. Gavwa is the only one who has a tendency to push Antuma's patience. Gavwa lacks focus, and Antuma often wishes that Gavwa would be more focused on the mission or the task at hand. She's patient with Gavwa, but to an extent. And that is it for Toa Factory Episode 6. We have completed our first Toa team. I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I'll probably just start on random Toa. Just go straight with whatever the Wheel of Elemental Power tells me to do. If any of you have suggestions of things you'd like to see or things you'd like to try, feel free to leave some suggestions in the comments. I probably won't use them, but I might. And again, if you have anything you would like to submit, anything that I could share here on the channel, send that to me at nuparosworkshop23@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with me so far for these first 6 episodes. I imagine you'll see these Toa again in the future. I certainly feel like I'm not done with them, and you'll be seeing some more of these Toa. So, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the future, and enjoy it. Enjoy the thrill of being alive.